Welcome to the GameChanger 00100 show. I'm your host, GameChanger. You know what it is, you know what it do, you know what to do, and that is hit that like button as you come in. All right. So, those of you who were lucky enough to have been born around the time that I did, or to have come of age in the 90s, really seen the best that hookup culture had to offer a young man. It was big bucks, no whammy. It was everything went into place. It was the greatest deal in relationships that a person can think of in a free society for men, for young men. And that is because hookup culture, minus the 80-20 rule, is going to be extremely and extraordinarily advantageous to a young man. But then time passed and hookup culture wasn't as fun. You started seeing the numbers change. You started seeing things get different for people. I'm going to talk about that difference in a little bit, but somebody sent me this video, and a young lady who I favor her looks. Here, I'll show you what I mean. There she goes. Has like a little bit of an Ethiopian thing going on. I'm feeling her fleece or whatever that is she's wearing. I think that's a fleece. So yeah. I don't know. I have a type, and she kind of fits the bill. Anyway, she has an interesting take on how it's bad for people, how it doesn't really work for everyone. Thank you very much, Deacon Dave. Greatly appreciate you. I will put you into the red pill matrix. So we're going to explore that. And her views matches mine almost exactly. Now, I'm a lot older than her, but I've seen the good side of hookup culture. And she's talking about the bad for men. And the reason that it became that way is where we differ. But we're going to discuss that in a bit. Hit the like button, fair use. Here we go. Tell me if you can hear it.
Little bit late, but as promised, I am going to today discuss the effects of hookup culture on men. So, oftentimes, you probably hear people say things like hookup culture only benefits men, and that's partially true. So, hookup culture does predominantly benefit men, but it only really benefits a small minority of men. In fact, some men can't even take part in hookup culture, even if they wanted to. And we can see that this is true.
Okay. There was a time when, and here's what the word benefit really means. Benefit means that you would be better off with it than without it. So, say you are a guy that for whatever reason, whether it's genetic or otherwise, whether it's genetic or personality, which in some instances can be genetic, especially if you have something going on upstairs that runs in a family that's just very off-putting. So, whatever reason you would be in incel hookup culture or not, then hookup culture doesn't really work against you, but it doesn't benefit you. But it didn't work against anyone when I was coming of age in the 90s. It did not work against anyone. And who it who every man either was neutral on it, meaning that they didn't really do well before hookup culture, and they wouldn't have done well after hookup culture. So, uh, besides them, every man benefited from it. I can say that some benefited a lot more than others, but everybody did better. And I'm talking about in the casual sex realm with it than without it. What she's talking about is the extraordinary benefits of it and how it affects today. Hit the like button.
Because there's been a rise in male virginity as the years have gone by. 1 in 3 men are either virgins or have not had sex in the last year. This large number of men who aren't able to find female companionship or female partners is also a big part in why we've seen massive explosions on platforms like OnlyFans, as one of the most popular genres on OnlyFans is known as GFE, which basically stands for the girlfriend experience. Because what's happening is men are basically paying OnlyFans models to act as a substitute for a girlfriend. I don't really know what that consists of, like what kind of content that is, but yeah, they basically are paying these models to pretend to be their girlfriend. Another byproduct of this is the rise in the manosphere. So this is where you'll find your red pill content and your black pill content. And so I might butcher the explanations of these two sides, but from my understanding, red pill is when you are focus more on self-improvement. So they kind of try and help men improve their like physique and their game and stuff in order to try and attract women. And then the black pill, from my understanding anyways, it seems as though within the black pill, they believe that appearance is the most important thing within within dating. So they basically put forward the idea that wherever you land on the Chad meter, shall we say, in terms of your appearance is what's going to determine your success in dating. That's my understanding.
Okay. Her understanding is a little bit in sync with mine. I do think that real red pill is more of an awareness. What she was describing was what you do with that awareness, and that is improve yourself. But nevertheless, it is an awareness like she's bringing that the market is different, and it's really more of a sociological study of what is making the market different. That is how I see it more than that. Like that there's outside influence going on and things. It's just an awareness. At least that's what the analogy in the Matrix would lead us to understand. So in fact, I'm gonna take this opportunity while y'all get the likes up. I will take this opportunity to put my man Deacon Dave in here. Also have a couple of others. So let me just do that now. Dave, there you go. All right, and that one. All right, so I greatly appreciate that. I got a couple of offline cash apps and super chats. If you want to be in this matrix, you know what it is, you know what to do. You can either become a channel member where you will be permanently placed in the background in the red, or you can hit the cash app or super chat button and you will be placed in there in the green for a while. So she has a decent understanding. I mean, she knew who Fresh and Fit were, obviously. She has a decent understanding of what the red pill and the red pill community is. And it is disturbing to hear that now 1 in 3 men are either virgins or they haven't had sex in the last year. I'm hoping that that's largely due to maybe men are raising their general standards. That's what I hope for. But realistically speaking, it could be simply because the getting just isn't as it was when I was coming of age. I think it's really a combination of both, to be honest with you. But yeah, once again, fair use.
The red pill is a little bit more optimistic. They think there's still stuff that can be done. Whereas the black pill is kind of like you're born with it or not, kind of. That's the energy I get from the two. But
Yeah, me too.
I could be wrong in my interpretation, but from what I
that last part I agree with.
These two pills. or whatever. So, how did we get here? How did we get into a situation where there's an increase in incels, there's an increase in lonely men paying OnlyFans models to pretend to be their girlfriend, an increase in men paying money for courses to manosphere content creators? Well, the answer to how we got here is, first of all, the sexual revolution, because the sexual revolution detached reproduction from sex and made sex more so about pleasure and therefore turned it into a leisure activity. Now, this, accompanied with modern inventions such as contraception, helped to destigmatize casual sex. So the sexual revolution, along with contraception, created the perfect foundations for hookup culture. And what caused hookup culture to explode was dating apps. The reason why hookup culture is so prevalent today is because of dating apps. Right now, men are in control of the mating strategy. And I know that there's going to be a lot of men watching this video who are going to say that's not true, this is all because of women, etc., etc. As it stands right now, that small minority from hookup culture are the ones who are setting the terms for today's mating strategy. I'll explain to
Maybe she has a point there, but since the women actually determines who that small group of men are going to be, then that's it. You see, this whole chat thing, if you were to say exactly what chat looks like, that's subject to change always. And I know we all have an idea of, hit the like button. We all have an idea of what the quintessential Chad is. We know that Fred from Scooby Doo is more akin to Chad than Shaggy from Scooby Doo. We know that. We know that Zach Morris and AC Slayer are more akin to Chad than Screech. However, we do see in certain circles where women just collectively get together and say, you know something, we're going to call this particular group the pretty boy, or we're going to use a pejorative to describe this particular group, a guy with, the off shirt nagagas. We could just say that these guys are too high maintenance. They're not focused on, they really, I seen them exercise. I seen them tweak who they determine Chad to be from time to time. I have seen that. And I've also seen them change in their preference between Chad and Tyrone. Like, it's really a style thing. So there is a there. Chad does have an advantage, but they determine who Chad is the way they determine, the way a society determines who their president is. So there is something there with that.
to you why men are the ones who are causing hookup culture, but women are enabling it. So there were some studies done on campuses, and what they were comparing was to see the differences between female mating strategy and male mating strategy. So what they found on these campuses was that whichever sex was the minority was the one who got to dictate the mating strategy, because they were the minority and therefore the highest in demand. What they observed on all of these campuses was that if the women were the ones who were the minority, these campuses had higher rates of monogamy, because women's natural dating strategy is to be monogamous. But on the campuses where men were the minority, these campuses had higher rates of hookup culture, because men's natural dating strategy is polygamy, which is when a man has multiple women at once. So the reason why we have higher rates of hookup culture in our regular day-to-day society is because our dating nowadays is predominantly done through dating apps. And the issue with that is that there's only a small minority of men that women actually want within these dating apps, because dating app data shows.
Okay, she's partially right here. Where she's wrong is that it's not the number of people who are alive or in a certain setting. It's really the number of people who are actually participating in the mating process. And that is almost always going to be more men than women. That's almost always going to be the case. So she talked about a situation where, there are more women than men, or excuse me, more men than women. And the results are monogamy. No, that's provided that the 80-20 rule don't exist. So if you have a situation where it's say 40% women and 60% men, they still create a situation where it's more active women than men. They feel comfortable with that, and I'm going to explain why later. But before we get too far from the point that she was making about OnlyFans, hit that like button. And the people who look for girlfriend experiences. Now, maybe it's because I come from a different time and I just fall into a unique niche, but the girlfriend experience option, and when she said that, I actually kind of understood OnlyFans. Before that, I really didn't understand the reason behind paying for interaction when porn is free. I really didn't understand that. I do understand that there's an interactive aspect of it. You can actually, and this is what I was assuming about it, that you were really just directing your own porn. So, like when I'm watching regular porn, it's like, okay, I really want her to, I don't know, just use an example. I don't really think of it when I'm watching it, but um, I really would say something like, man, I want you to take it off slowly or something, or take it off fast or something like, so it gives you that kind of control. And I get it. It's not worth the buck to me. Now, but she brings up a different dynamic, and that is OnlyFans. So, or excuse me, the girlfriend experience, meaning that she's saying your name. So there is a thrill there. She's saying your name. I don't know, she's getting you a virtual sandwich, things like that. I can see that being a part of the experience. However, to me, it's still not worth the money. And also, and this is what confuses me a little bit about it, because I spend in dating, it's easy to get into girlfriend experience relationships, and you actually have to, in my experience, when you're online dating, in the past, you have to avoid girlfriend experiences. Because, okay, shout out to Alan Roger Curry. What they're calling girlfriend experiences and they're paying for, I call manipulative time wasters. And I call them that because of Alan Roger Curry. So, and this is just a woman who, and trust me, I took the bait more than once. And it doesn't take long to realize, like, okay, this person is just wasting time. She's looking for company. But a manipulative time waster would be somebody who, you meet them online, and this is a specific instance of manipulative time waster. You meet her online, and it's like, okay, you hit it off. It's like, all right, let's get together. Let's get together, go on dates, and basically begin the process of me sleeping with you. So you jump through the hoops and everything, hit the like button. You jump through the hoops and everything, and when the time comes, there's excuses. Now, typically online, that excuse would be she lives in one place and you live in another. But she is prolonging the dating phase for an abnormal amount of time, which means that you're constantly on the phone, you're constantly courting, you're constantly cupcaking, stuff like that. To me, that's a waste of time, because the purpose of a relationship, prior to marriage and things like that, and you're ready to have children, the purpose is sexual gratification. And she's not sexually gratifying you if she is in the virtual space or on the phone or stuff like that. So those are essentially cyber girlfriend experience relationships. And the women are the ones doing that. And me as a man, I was avoiding that. So now we have a situation where the men are not only avoiding that, they're paying for it. So it's interesting how the marketing just happened with that, because it would be my thought that they could have gotten that anywhere, just by online dating and getting with one of these manipulative time wasters. Like, they're paying to get that. That's a little interesting. And I understand that men are different as far as their online ability to seduce. I do understand that. I would just assume that they would catfish or what. I don't know. It's a very interesting dynamic with me with that. Let's just leave it there. All right. So hit that like button once again. All right.
Shows that women only swipe right. I can't remember which way is the good way and which way is the bad way, but whichever one's the good way, women only swipe that way 15% of the time. So what's happening is, because there's only a small minority of men that women want, that means that the men, because they're the minority, they've got to set the terms. So what we're seeing happening on these apps is what we were seeing happening on those campus studies. And in the same way that on those campus studies, we saw that if you have a small minority of men that most of the women are trying to pursue, the men get to set the terms and they will have hookup culture, because a male's natural dating strategy is polygamy.
And once again, this is where we disagree, because it's not a small minority of men. It's a small minority of men that they are swiping right on, meaning that they are taking a situation where it's majority men and turning it into a situation of minority men. So, let's just say the male to female ratio was 75-25, because more men use dating apps than women. They're taking that and turning it into like like 85-15 scenario. This is the women preferring polygamy. And that's what hookup culture is. Listen, hookup culture cannot exist. Men, like she said, it is men's biological imperative. It is our desire. The way we mate is in a polygamous fashion. We want to spread our seed as much as possible. That's an evolutionary trait. So that is our way of doing it. The only way hookup culture can exist is if women override their biological desire for monogamy and say, I want something else instead. Now, the question is, what's their motivation for overriding their biological desire for monogamy? And we're going to get into that maybe after I'm done talking about her. Hit that like button.
That made sense, because I feel like that was a bit complicated. But that is basically the reason why hookup culture is so prevalent today. And women have enabled it because women have decided to comply with this standard as opposed to rejecting it. And the reason why women are complying with it is because we were raised under the sexual revolution, which has taught us that sex is nothing more than a leisure activity and casual sex is empowering and freeing, even though most women don't actually truly find it to be that way, because if it was, then we wouldn't have so many bitter women saying that men are trash. Which brings me to my next point. Because most women are trying to pursue the same small minority of men, and these men are exploring and enjoying themselves by having multiple women at once, they're not really looking to settle down with any of these women, because why would they when they've got all the options in the world? And so what tends to happen is they'll mess around with these girls and just have casual sex with them, but never commit to them. And these women will eventually want more from them, because as much as the feminists have told us that we can have casual sex just like men can and it's nothing to us, the reality is we are biologically different. The reason why women tend to develop feelings first during these friends with benefits situations is because when women sleep with men, we release a hormone called oxytocin. And this oxytocin is known as a bonding hormone. It causes us to form attachment.
Okay. I like her. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna get a little personal here as far as my own dating patterns go. Now, I've often said, so I put another one in there for you, Bernard. Thank you. With the correct spelling. I'm indifferent. My penis don't really care about a woman's IQ. It don't. It don't. However, I have found it easier to seduce more intelligent women than less intelligent women. Yes, somebody says she kind of looks like Kelly Stamps. So you know I have a type. That's right. She does kind of look like Kelly Stamps. I find it easier for me to seduce more intelligent women than less intelligent women. Maybe because it's easier for us to bond. You know, they understand me, they understand my jokes and things like that. So it is easier to make that connection. What I have found is that you rarely find chicks like this online. You know, the online chicks tend to follow a very predictable and generic template and the only thing that varies slightly is their looks. And even that is significantly less than what you see online. So there's that. And that's just my own personal experience. Now, but she's spot on. She is spot on with everything that she's saying. Her interpretation of the modern dating market. I have to say that. Dang, it was something in particular she was saying. Here, let me go back a little bit.
The feminists have told us that we can have casual sex just like men can.
Oh, to come to that awareness that what society see, and part of being intelligent is that you're not as manipulated by society as others. So at a very young age, she realized that, hey, wait a minute, what feminists told me is bullshit. It's bullshit. Like, why would I, as a woman, engage in hookup culture when, you know, I'm biologically prone to monogamy? Like, it makes all the sense in the world why men, not knowing the 80-20 rule, would gravitate towards it. That makes all the sense in the world. However, why would I, as a woman, gravitate towards this crap? Why would I gravitate towards sharing a man in, you know, if monogamy was a thing? And that is due to heavy promotion from the feminists. And really what feminism is feminism essentially, hit the like button, fellas. Essentially what feminism is women exercising their right to behave in a way that piss men off. And that's not an oversimplification of it. That's simply what it is. It's women behaving in a way, or exercising their right to behave in a way that piss men off. So if you wonder why, you know, one set of feminists is, you know, anti-sex and everything is grape, you know, they got more grapes than the California raisins, like, you know, everything is grape, and they walk around with the buzz cut, just, you know, trying to convince women to submit their JJs. So that's one aspect of it. And then another aspect of it is to walk around like a slut. Really, everything you do is considered feminism as long as it's pissing some aspects of men off. And hookup culture is really the same thing. It's just a direct defiance against the father figure in your life, the male authority figure in your life that would rather not see you get slaughtered out. Kudos to her for realizing it at a young age. And yeah, she do has like a Kelly Stamp thing. So yeah, I will be the first to admit I have a type. My type is that whole Ethiopian look that some chicks who aren't Ethiopian have. You know, those eyes, those lips and stuff. Now, Kelly Stamps is hotter than her. But I'm not going to take away the fact that I find her cute.
And it's nothing to us. The reality is we are biologically different. The reason why women tend to develop feelings first during these friends with benefit situations is because when women sleep with men, we release a hormone called oxytocin. And this oxytocin is known as a bonding hormone. It causes us to...
I don't believe that. I don't believe that, and I don't have a scientific counter to it. I'm just going to say that it sounds like oversimplified BS. Now, she may be right and I'm wrong. I'm not saying that I know better, but what I'm saying is it just sounds wrong. I think it's more psychological than chemical. I don't think that humans' sense of smell really is strong enough to react to hormones that way. Once again, I could be wrong. Somebody in the chat room said I am wrong. I could be wrong, but it sounds like BS.
Form attachments and bonds with the person that we're sleeping with. And so if you have a friends with benefits situation with a guy, you're releasing this hormone when you sleep together. And so you are developing an attachment to them. And that's the reason why women typically tend to be the ones who develop feelings first during these situationships. And this is usually why a lot of these situationships end, is because the woman wants more, but the guy doesn't, because men don't release oxytocin when they're sleeping with you. Like, men have oxytocin too, but they don't release it in the same way that women do. So this is why it's a lot easier for guys to have casual sex and to sleep with loads of people and never develop feelings or get attached or anything like that. Whereas it's not the same for women because our biology is not the same. Regardless, women still engage in this anyway because most of them don't actually know this information. And this has polluted the dating pool, because what will typically happen is a woman will get with one of these top 15% guys who has no intention of settling down yet because he's in his prime. And then she'll develop feelings for him. She'll want a relationship with him. He's not really interested in doing that. So then they go apart. And then the problem is, if she experiences this multiple times, she will eventually develop resentment and bitterness towards men because she thinks that all men are the same and that all men are trash.
Now, what she's saying here is true. I have seen it. Being my age, you can definitely see the difference between a woman in her 20s and a woman in her 30s and how they view men. And it's not always resentment, but sometimes it's expressed in many ways, none of which are good. It's expressed in a limited or inability to bond with a man. A lot of the ill behavior that you see comes from a woman's lack of ability to bond with a man properly. And they're just kind of like spiraling out of control. It's like they're drowning, grabbing for penises, just in order to keep themselves afloat. It's kind of sad, which is another reason likely why men prefer younger women. One of the many reasons.
And then she will go back out into the world with this new traumatized outlook. And so this is a problem for the...
Okay, here's to the oxytocin people out there. Well, okay, let's do this. Why isn't there oxytocin smelling cologne then? Why don't we just, like, as men, just harvest a bunch of beautiful foreign women and ask them, I will give you money for your oxytocin. You scrape it off their vagina or wherever it comes from, and then you put it in a bottle, you synthesize it, and then you spray it on me, or you spray it on Screech from Saved by the Bell, and then you just see all the other attractive women just bond to him because, like, oh, it's oxytocin. I am attracted to him as if I sexually bonded to him because I smell attractive woman oxytocin on him. It's oversimplified. It just seems like bullshit. That would be the first thing I'd done once I discovered oxytocin is a thing. Like, every time, like I have friends who are I guess that dude, that top 4 or 5% type dude and stuff like that get all the I would ask them, like, hey, when you're done with her, let me get some of that oxytocin so she'll come my way. Like that. Come on, it's too simple. And I know it's books and stuff that doesn't mean much. It is too simple. Brothers, Nagagas, Pookie, Ray Ray will be on the street selling. Hey, I got that toasting. Like, word? Yeah, I got that toasting. Oh, okay. Let me get some of that toasting. Come on now.
The other, say 85% of guys, because they all kind of get lumped in together into this whole men are trash thing, when really it's the men that women are dealing with that are trash, because most women are pursuing the same small.
How is that working? Well, they are using pheromones for cologne. How is that working? How is that working? Rest in peace, Kevin Samuels, but I don't think it was because of the oxytocin in the cologne he was using.
Minority of men, and they're all being screwed over by that same small minority of men. So the reason why most women think men are trash is because they're all sleeping with the same guys. So far I do feel like I've only spoken about the negative effects of the 85% of men. And to recap what those are, it's that they have higher rates of loneliness because they are invisible to most women, because most women are concentrating all of their attention to that top 15% of men. The second consequence of that is that these men are becoming quite bitter and resentful of women because of the current dating scene. I get the feeling of being resentful towards people who've made you feel worthless. I get that. However, I think it makes more sense to be angry at the culture as opposed to angry at the individuals who've been raised by said culture. Do you know what
I agree with that. And I think that that's another disconnect her and I have, because I think that the red pill is in awakening and understanding of the culture and the circumstances that created that culture. Not really just at least in my case, it's not just a direct hatred for women, because I've seen both sides of the culture. I've seen what they are and what they have become.
I mean, for the men who get to participate in hookup culture because you are one of the studs, your time is also limited. It's all fun and games when you're young, but if you are one of the men who are considered very attractive and you are very popular with the ladies, you have a certain time frame to jump out of that hookup culture lifestyle. Otherwise, you too will have the same negative consequences that women have for taking part in it. So in my last video, I shared a video of a woman who didn't prioritize settling down in when she was younger, and she was discussing the struggles of being single and unmarried at 46. And today I'm also going to share a story of a man and his experience in a similar situation. So someone posted on Quora, is it hard to live as a bachelor your whole life? And so this was the top reply, and it was really popular. It got 1.1 million views and 21,000 likes. And so this is what they said: yes, it sucks, and it sucks more as you get older. Speaking as a single 54-year-old man who has never been married, I can tell you that being alone as you get older is a scary and unpleasant proposition. As you get older, you become more aware and sure of your values and what you want. If you are not careful, you become inflexible and unable to negotiate those values. In the meantime, I see around me people my age who not only have experienced the trials, pain, and joy of child rearing, but are becoming grandparents. For a long time, while they were changing diapers and coaching Little League, I was.
Now, what she's saying is true. What she's reading, the guy is older than me, but what she's reading is true. And this is true of those who participate in hookup culture successfully or unsuccessfully. The thing is that you are either too busy hooking up to have children, or you just aren't good at it, and the opportunity didn't present itself. But really during hookup culture, it's almost always going to present itself, because women in the welfare system and stuff, they pretty much just want to have kids. I most guys try not to have kids because of hookup culture. Never, because you don't want to have kids with somebody who you're just hooking up with, because then you are going to be destined to become a baby daddy. So you avoid that scenario at all costs. So I don't really think it's hookup culture that would make a man childless in the future. However, it doesn't help with the situation. Now, that being said, the feeling that you get for being single later in life is the feeling of regret. It's funny because women think that it's them. She don't think that because she's above the curve. But the regret really has more to do with having kids than having, in-house pussy. So what she's reading is a guy who is regretting not securing monogamy for children, not her. Hit the like button.
Practicing for triathlons, traveling the world, doing whatever activity struck my fancy, and driving expensive cars. But they were the winners in the long run. Yes, some, perhaps many of them divorced, but they still have their families and children. They experienced the joys of transferring their knowledge and love to another generation of themselves, and they formed intimate bonds with someone special that exceeded mere friendship. I don't regret the good times I had, or the adventures, or the exciting romantic rendezvous, but I think all those things pale in comparison to sharing consistent, cohesive moments with someone you build a future with and plan to grow old with. In addition, the silence of being alone is deafening. You can fill your hours with activities, reading, volunteering, and more, but coming home.
Now, this part I don't agree with. The silence of not having kids is, problematic, but and this isn't a shot at women. Most of the time, I don't want to hear you. So maybe the silence of the absence of your presence isn't is a thing, I guess, but it's not as bad as actually listening to your ass. It's not.
Home to an empty house and wondering who will find you if you die alone in the middle of the night and who will even care is one of the most pathetic fears of an aging bachelor's life. I still live in hope that somewhere out there is the love of my life waiting to be discovered somehow, but it's with increasing fear and doubt that this hope is threatened. So those are the confessions of someone who chose the life of being a bachelor. It kind of reminded me a bit of something that Joe Rogan said. If I find the clip.
Okay. It's not really a choice for a lot of guys. The bachelor life is not really a choice when you look at hookup culture and what it is. If you grew up in a hookup culture, then you were just adapting to the culture. Okay, take me for example, right? Everybody know I was a nerd and still am a nerd. So I just wanted to follow a certain template as far as relationship goes. And that was you didn't really I wanted to follow my own trope in the sense that nerds aren't players. Like I didn't even think that it was possible. Like the two things are almost a contradiction in terms. Like nerds aren't players, therefore kind of like Orientals aren't tall or something like that. Like you just can't be both. It doesn't make sense. So I am going to be the best nerd that I am. I was born. This is the way I am. So part of my nerdness is to just go for the Bill Cosby Huxtable life. And so I started the situation looking at every girlfriend, every lover or what have you as a potential wife. But what I found is that the young women of the 90s were really just looking for hookups. Back then it was just like sexual revolution or whatever, or down with OPP. It's like, something, I couldn't even get monogamy if I wanted to, but it really just turned into like, oh, this is what you want? Okay. I mean, that's how it was for a lot of young men. It was just like at the time. It's just like, wait a minute. When given an opportunity for monogamy, you choose to be cheated on, and this was the time when songs like Ain't No Player Like the One I Got, they actually wanted it. Anybody who said that they didn't want it, or you guys were cheated on, no, they wanted that crap. Papa was a Rolling Stone. You wanted that crap. Stop lying. Now you may have been manipulated by society to want that, but you wanted that. I was there. Y'all wanted that crap. Anybody who is like in their 20s and their parents are in their 40s. Hold on. It's 7 o'clock. All right. And they're in their 20s and their parents are in their 40s. And they're saying that your dad cheated on me. No, your mama wanted that crap. She wouldn't have respected him otherwise. I kid you not, I was there. It was not a choice in most every situation. Like later, I didn't even understand. Like by the time I reached my 20s, when I'm talking about beginning, I'm talking about my teens. By the time I reached my 20s, I didn't even know when to stop. Because I will say that some of the women stopped. They like, and some of the women like her, like the 90s and early 2000s equivalent to her, didn't want that crap. And I did not know the difference. I swear I didn't by that time. But don't make it seem like guys are just clicking a box to say bachelor. Just like there are countries of guys where everybody gets married like by 25, and they're not clicking the husband box. I'm pretty sure that if they had a box to click, they probably would have clicked the player box too. I went to school and I work with Indians and stuff. Many of those dudes would click the player box because they didn't grow up in a culture like that. Of course, sexual variety seems intriguing, and these guys are extraordinarily fascinated with it. Even though guys who have been players and things like that, and Western guys would trade places with them, as far as having an arranged marriage with a submissive wife. Like the grass is just always looking greener on the other side. But I talk to them, these Indian, and I tell them stories just like I tell you guys stories, but I tell them more in-depth stories, and they get impressed by the smallest things, like like, really, you slept with a white woman? Like yeah, I slept with. Was she blonde? Like, calm the fuck down. Yes, I did. And some were, yes, is not they. So we're not clicking boxes here. We're doing the best we can with the societal rules that are giving to us. We're making the best. If we grow up in a hookup culture society, then we want to hook up as much as possible. That is the best you can do in a hookup culture. If you grow up in a monogamous culture, then you are finding the most beautiful, dutiful wife that you can. That is what you do in that particular culture. All right. Oh, by the way, when I say I don't like talking to chicks, and it's really more of a chore to get what I actually want from them, that's the overwhelming majority of chicks. Some I do actually like their company. Like her, I actually do like. I would like her company. Maybe even Kelly Stamps.
I'll put it in the video.
There's psychological needs that are just as valuable and important as physical needs. Like we know we have needs for nutrients, we know have needs for water. We have needs psychological for all sorts of different things. Our communities are incredibly important. Love is incredibly important. Family is incredibly important. I know some people that are older men that have been bachelors their whole lives, and they're childless, and now they're, they don't have a deep connection with anybody, and they get to this very weird, strange place where they're like, is this it? Now I'm 70 years old and I never had children, and I don't know what to do. This is my life now. And it's they've all their friends have had families now, and their families, a lot of times the kids are grown up, and it becomes very, very strange.
The ultimate final
He's right.
destination of hookup culture, for those who aren't able to get out of it quick enough, is loneliness. In that time that you're spending having casual, meaningless hookups or casual, meaningless situationships, that is time that you are taking away from finding someone you can actually have a meaningful relationship with and potentially have a family.
All right, let me get some more likes. I got 100 people watching, and a little more than half of that in likes. So yeah, need y'all to hit that button for me. Greatly appreciate it. Greatly appreciate it. All right, so let me bring the matrix back up. And let me get out of here while y'all hitting that button. And we'll do it that way because I got to check some things here. And I hate logging into StreamYard and YouTube in order to check how many likes I have. Maybe there's a better way, but and if somebody out there knows, then tell me. But in the meantime, that's where we're at. All right, let's see. So, give me a moment, brothers. I'm sick of y'all. I'm sick of seeing y'all do ill crap. I was on Sweet Melody Speaks. Well, actually, I'll talk about that because I'm gonna at the end of this, I'm gonna talk about the end result of hookup culture um, and where you wind up. All right, where are we at on the likes? All right, cool. Making it happen. All right, let's do this.
Family with, if that's something that you want for yourself. The issue is that there are people who do want that, who would like to have that, but they don't prioritize it and they kind of leave it too late. But the problem is, are your options still going to be as vast as they are when you are at your prime? That's something to consider, because the worst thing that seems to keep happening to people is that they end up dying alone by default. But yeah, but that's really all there is to say on that. I wanted to just talk about the negative effects on hookup culture on men too, because I don't think that the negative effects on hookup culture are limited to women. And I did think it'd also be interesting just to understand how hookup culture became so prevalent and so prominent within our society. And I do think that dating apps have played a massive, massive role in getting us to where we are, of course, assisted with feminism and the sexual revolution. So yeah, dismantling hookup culture completely would be very complicated, because you'd have to completely reshape culture. You'd have to completely reshape.
This is true. And even though hookup culture now doesn't benefit the majority of men, the majority of men, for one, those who it don't benefit will always pretend like it benefits them. And this is where you get these fake players or fake game dudes, whatever you want to call it, to where, they have all the bitches that you never see. They have all the invisible bitches, just like I have like a Alhambra bottle full of invisible fish, but really it's just water. Like there are always going to be a certain number of guys who are pretending, and then there are always going to be a certain number of guys that believe that they will benefit from it. But she's right. I've seen a modern dating market and I've seen a past dating market, and most guys don't benefit from it. So I don't see the men collectively speaking against it anytime soon. I will, and I know it'd be hypocritical because I kind of got the best of it, so to speak. And I'm not saying like I'm not top 20. I'm saying like I grew up in a time where it was definitely more beneficial. That's what I'm saying. But and to speak about it now would be just like what the hell. But it's one of those things that I didn't see then, but I see now. What's going on, just as she sees now.
Society, you'd have to make it more common for people to meet in real life again, as opposed to dating apps. You'd also have to have all the women come to an agreement that they're no longer going to sleep with men they're not in a relationship with, and I don't know how realistic that is. So yeah, I have no idea whether or not hookup culture can be dismantled or not, because like I said, all of the propaganda around the sexual revolution has gotten a lot of people thinking that casual sex is empowering. So you'd have to be completely going against what people have been learning since they were basically kids. So I don't know how optimistic I am about people going back to more meaningful, deeper connections with each other. I would like it, I love love, and I think that everyone should have the opportunity to have a deeper, meaningful relationship with someone, because I see all the cute old couples holding hands, and it's just like, I don't know if my generation's going to have many of that. It's quite depressing, honestly. But yeah, but this is the video on the effects of hookup culture on men. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found it interesting. If you enjoyed this video, then do like and subscribe. If you'd like to catch me on other socials, you can find me here. I also make music.
Okay. I don't care about your music, but that's her stuff if you want it. Ladies, her seduction technique, even though she's not out trying to seduce a mass number of people, this is where you want to get as far as, and I know I have a few ladies watching, this is what you want to get as far as a method of enticement towards men. Now, notice not only is she wearing like a fleece, this is the only video of hers I've seen. Not only is she wearing a fleece, she also has it like zipped up to the absolute neck. Like she has it zipped up to her throat. Which means that her primary, her sole physical attraction is her face and personality. So if you are able to seduce in this particular way, then you are doing good. You know, you are that chick. You know, you are that early wifeable chick. You hear about the chicks that, you know, that get wifed up by the time that they're, you know, 20x. It's because they do that cute thing, and it don't matter if they have a fleece or a burqa on or whatnot. It don't matter because they just got it like that. You know, strive to be that chick and personality. Yes, exactly. Like I say, I bond easier with smart chicks, intelligent chicks, and chicks who are not easily manipulated by society, because I know what society manipulates bitches into. Before it was okay if a chick was a little behind the curve, and society manipulated, because society was teaching women to become submissive wives and mothers anyway. So it didn't really matter if they became that because they were following their natural imperative, or society was sending them in that direction. It really didn't matter because it all wound up the same place. They all wound up making their husband sandwiches. So it really didn't matter. Now it takes a woman with a little bit of an ability to see an outside perspective. Now, why hookup culture is bad? Listen, hookup culture isn't what it used to be. And she says that the reason for that is because of dating apps. Dating apps really just hyper accelerated the inevitable. What happened? Hit the like button. What happened? What is going on right now is inevitable. It is inevitable. You see, anytime you have a culture where trade is involved, right? Where you're trading one thing for another, there's eventually going to come a balance. Things like it, there's always a correction if the deal is hyper advantageous to one party over another. For example, let's say you have one tribe that's near a river, and you know they sell fish, and you have another tribe that's inland, and they sell cows or something like that. Eventually, whichever one tastes better will sell for more. Like first it'll be like 20 fish for cows, but then people will be like, you know something, I really like fish more than cows. So eventually, instead it'll start to be like 19 fish and then 18. Slowly but surely the market adjusts itself. That's something that's inevitable. Hold on right quick. Let me do this. All right, thanks a lot, Ash L. And appreciate you. And Pablo says, great show, GC. Made it easy to understand. Thanks a lot, brother. Thanks a lot. All right. So, with the long names. All right. So, and hit you with that one. There you go. In the red pill matrix. All right. It's going to adjust itself. Now, why do I bring that up as far as hookup culture goes? On the surface, hookup culture benefits men tremendously. You're able to get women to completely, eliminate their desire for monogamy and stability and family and stuff like that. You just get them to throw that out the window and then just ride the CC. Initially, that's going to be the case, but because sperm cheap, egg expensive, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, the market is going to over time correct itself. And now what we're seeing is an overcorrection. You see, there's a reason that Chad, Tyrone, whatever you want to call him, I think that Asian guy's even now have a name. Let's just call him Chu. Or no, let's call him Hong Lo. Let's call him Hong Lo, right? So there's a reason why Chad, Tyrone, Hong Lo, and Jose, it's not really benefiting them, because before they would get with their female equivalent. Now what they're doing is they're getting with a large number of their female inferiors. Basically, if you're that dude, if you are a 9 and you have like a bunch of 7s, don't get me wrong. That's fine. It is better than that dude that's a 6 that's not getting any 7s. But you are still getting an inferior deal. And the reason why you're getting an inferior deal is because that's the market adjusting itself. Like, in exchange for easy access, you are taking a hit in looks. And that hit is being seen throughout the mating spectrum. So if you are a dude that's a 10, you now have to get a 7, but you get a bunch of 7s. And if you're a dude that's a 7, you now have to get a bunch of 5s, and so on and so forth. To once you're that dude that's a 2 or a 1, you don't get anything, and that's what's going on. Now, that what's happening over time, as it will happen, because it's such a good deal, because they're offering you what your biology wants, and that is variety. You're losing on the other end. You're basically exchanging. The market is adjusting itself. You are exchanging quality for quantity. And that's why it's so many low quality women out there, because all they're doing is they're like, I don't have to be of high quality. All I have to do is participate in hookup culture. You ever notice how the chicks who aren't that hot, or excuse me, ever notice how the chicks who aren't a part of hookup culture tend to be hotter? Ever notice that? Like, really stop and think about it. Stop and think about who's riding the CC. It's the chick that it's the 4s that want 9s, and they know that the only way to get a 9 is if they offer them variety. Because they know that there's only so many 9s and there's only so many female 9s in a population. And if he's participating in hookup culture and he wants it 365 days of the year, he's going to exhaust the supply of 9s pretty damn quick. And eventually the market is going to adjust to her subpar vajayjay. And that's why you have so much confusion going on as far as where a woman stands. That is what Kevin Samuels was. That's why he was so popular, because what he was doing was, if you really pay attention to his callers, hit the like button, pay attention to his callers and what they were doing. And that was, these women were trying to get hookup culture prices through monogamy. That's what Miss Average at Best was doing. Oh, my body isn't average at best. That's hookup culture talk. Your body is a tool of hookup culture. So yes, you can get that high value man to hook up with you. But you see, you were trying to move out of hookup culture. You were trying to move out of hookup culture and into monogamy, into a monogamous relationship. And there the deal changes, because the game changes, because you are in a different market and the market corrects itself. You will find a guy that is the equivalent to what your looks can gather for you long term. And the guys that your looks can gather for you long term is different than the ones that they can gather for you short term. You see, there's a reason that that the British chick isn't saying stuff like my body isn't average. See, there's a reason why she's not into hookup culture as much. You know, there's a reason why even at a young age she's like, I don't have to show my body. Look at my face. Hookup culture don't benefit her. Now let's talk about that for a second. Hookup culture does not benefit the nines. It doesn't. What does a nine have to gain from doing crap like that? And I'm not talking about like the gold digging nines, because that's obvious gold. I'm talking about, but even then they could really just get it from like one wealthy man. So but that's a different culture nonetheless. Hookup, they don't get anything from just spreading it around to a bunch of dicks, spreading around that nine essence everywhere. They get nothing from that. So it's not what hookup culture was. It's what it was destined to become. And yes, you know, I'm pretty sure dating apps hyper accelerated that. But all dating apps is, all the internet is a window to the market, is a window to the marketplace. Meaning, like, you know, it's just like now you can shop more. You know, before you would have to go to like several, let's just say electronic store, if you was trying to buy a laptop or something. You would have to go to several. You would go to Fry's, then Circuit City. That used to be a place. And so was Fry's. You would go to several places to find the best price. Well, now it's easier. You just go online and you find the best price. So now they're getting the best price for penis, but it was going to be something that eventually happened anyway. That was inevitable. The hookup culture as it stood was too advantageous to men, and the market was going to eventually correct itself. And that's why we're at where we're at. Knowing where it leads, you know, it's a bad deal. You know, it's kind of like Lord of the Rings. You know, the elves, the humans, the dwarves, they took those rings, and then, you know, and then they were tricked, and the one ring controlled them all. It's like, oh crap, I didn't know that. You know, hey, the ring was a good deal, you know. And then the other shit happened. You know, like those 9 humans that are now just like those wraiths or whatever you call them, you know, witch kings and stuff like that. It's like, hey, when they gave me these rings, it was great. I was living forever. My ED was cured and everything. It's like, man, you know, I could live to be thousands of years old. This is the greatest thing ever. And then somebody comes with a bigger ring, and next thing you know, you're a slave, and this dude is just controlling your every action. And so it started off good. And I feel bad for the young brothers, the under 30s, who didn't even get the good out of it. Y'all didn't even get the good out of it. Y'all were born somewhere in the 90s. And by the time y'all came of age, 4 started demanding 9s. They started demanding that shit. They started demanding 9s. They started saying you got to spend at least $200 to date me, or y'all started flying chicks in who's not putting out. Yep, that the market adjusted it. Y'all got screwed. Y'all got screwed. It's because of us for signing up for that crap. So yeah, somebody said why. That's the long and short of why it's a bad deal in the long term. And even though many of you won't admit it, this is the end result of the bad deal. So, and also on an individual basis, you do get a better deal outside of it. And here's why. Because what I've noticed is that hookup culture is something that women offer men in exchange for something else. Monogamy, because that's their primary dating comfort zone for women, monogamy is something that men offer women. So let's just say an average woman can walk up to an exceptional man and say, we should be together. And in exchange, to offset the fact that you're a 7.5 plus and I'm a 5, to offset that difference, I offer you hookup culture. And that is a decent deal. Now, believe it or not, and this is hard for a lot of guys to understand, because and I'm about to go soon because I know Bernard's about to start, but the reason why it's hard for guys to understand, because most women are in the hookup culture, but outside of that, you do offer something. You as a 5, you as an average guy can walk up to a 7.5 and say, I offer you monogamy. And she is willing to at least consider that. She's willing to at least consider that. So in that situation, and that is where you get the relationships where you see, and particularly the white on black relationships, if you offer monogamy, you tend to get a better deal. I am willing to bet that she is prettier than her boyfriend is handsome. I repeat, she is likely prettier than her boyfriend is handsome, but in exchange, he has to actually be her boyfriend. And that means that he will not be able to indulge in hookup culture the same way. So there are pros and cons. And the reason why you see so many brothers in situations where they're prettier, or excuse me, the man is more handsome than the woman is pretty, that's because we embraced hookup culture more than any other group. We made songs about player culture. We talked about it. We made movies about it, how to be a player, the Mac, et cetera, et cetera. The vision of a ladies' man was the black man, and it still is to a much lesser extent. So we took advantage of that too much, and now we're in a situation to where almost all of our relationships are born from hookup culture. And that's why the man is often so much more handsome than the woman is pretty. That's become a norm. And these physical gap relationships is a result of it. So, basically, hookup culture means uglier bitch. A woman who's less pretty than you are handsome. Monogamy tends to consist of relationships where the woman is more pretty than the man is handsome. Got it? Get it? Got it? Good. Quality over quantity. That's the way I look at it. And by quality, I mean looks. Ladies, understand this. Even though I talk a good up about personality and stuff like that, make no mistake. Make no mistake. Your looks is your primary attraction tool. I talk about personalities once I'm already physically attracted to you. You know, the only reason why I mentioned her personality is because she's cute. I don't think about that shit if you ugly as fuck. It's just the way it is. So don't think that you could go personality your way out of some ugly crap, okay? Don't do that. So with that, I would like to thank the Cash Apps and Super Chats, managers and moderators, those who are listening silently, and those who participate in the chat. About to head over to my good friend and brother Bernard Riley's show. Stay tuned. This is GameChanger 00100. Game over. Peace.